And joining us is a pioneer in behavioral finance and the author of The True Cost of Happiness, Stacey Tisdale. She's here to help us understand why people are making such drastic changes in their lives now. Stacey, so good to see you. We've known each other for a very long time, and tell you some of the best career advice you can get is from this woman right here. Rachel, let me start going back to you. You sold your dream house, all of your belongings. You packed up and headed out west. I tell you, the idea of, not because you want money in the bank, the insecurity I would feel in giving it up, not because of the title, but what if it doesn't work out? I've got these kids, they need me, they depend on me. Were you at all worried that it wouldn't work?
Oh, yeah. That was the hardest part. That was the absolute hardest part, other than leaving my community and my best friend, which was a security in and of itself that we had cultivated over the 10 years that we were in that location. I had always worked. You know, when my husband was in college, I worked. And through all of my kids, I worked. I had always worked. I really related to what you guys were talking about with your previous guest, and that's just my mother worked, and that was instilled in me. And part of it was that security. That's what you do. Yeah. My husband's job is remote, so that helped, that we did have some security in his job, but we'd always been a two-income household. Right. And we had to sit down and financially look at our finances and prioritize what we were willing to sacrifice in order to restore a semblance of continuity and consistency and joy in our home, in our household.
You know, Stacey, you say that people are looking in the wrong places for happiness when it's inside of them. You know, work, we get such conflicting information about work. Work is supposed to make you happy. It's supposed to fulfill you. It's also your responsibility to take care of yourself and your family. We have this interesting relationship with work. And I personally felt a little guilty having this conversation about resigning from jobs when you have millions of people out of work. Like, we have a dysfunctional relationship with work on some level.
We have had a dysfunctional relationship with work, but this is such an exciting moment right now, because when I hear Rachel's story, when I heard your earlier stories, what we have learned over the last year, and these trends, I love you calling this the great realization, because these seeds were planted a long time ago. When you are uncompromising and connected to your goals and your values, things happen around you. People like Rachel, would you have even dreamed that this could have all happened? But you connected to a deeper part of yourself, and you made decisions from there. You weren't in the surface fear, where most of us have been programmed to live. And what's really interesting, over the past 2 decades, we have seen employers really running the show. They've overworked us. They haven't given us benefits. They've underpaid us. There's been wage stagnation, but we've been asked to put out 5 times more work. And what happens when in that situation is we go on to automatic pilot. We get in these habitual thoughts. We get in these habitual beliefs, and we just kind of go through life like that, and it takes a big bang to wake us up out of that.
So is this revenge? I mean, you know what I mean? It's like revenge for the way that, you know, the workforce has been treated, and also both the things that the 2 first guests have in common, they're moms, right?
Yeah.
And as our first guest, Frida, said, she wasn't excelling at work or excelling as a mom. So at the end of the day, she wasn't winning on either side.
Yeah, it's not revenge. When you strip away, I'm Tamron, the talk show host. I'm Stacey, the financial expert. And you know, all of the ways in which we identify ourselves. And when that gets taken away from us, like all of a sudden everything that we believed didn't exist, you're left with what's underneath that. And, you know, a lot of us you know, what's underneath all of that stuff is someone who's born with all the abilities in the world to make changes, to connect with our priorities. But once we sat down and got a good look at those goals and priorities, how we were living was not matching up with the truth of what was important to us.
Which is interesting, because we've heard people also in the past say, I'm going to downsize, right? I don't need this, I don't need that, I'm going to downsize. But after the last year and a half, it was a different version of that downsize conversation. That's not, you know, unusual. We always hear people say, I didn't need 2 cars, or I don't need, you know, that house I thought, so I'm going to downsize. But this is different.
Yeah, it's very different. Our brains have literally been rewired over the last year. And just, you know, what we thought made us happy was put to the truth test, and it didn't. I can say my family, or you know, was the most important thing to that. But when we were locked down and had to sit down, you know, it's like, okay, my life isn't matching up to what I'm saying. And these trends really started taking place in the millennial generation, because that work hard, go to school, save money equation simply did not add up for them, because they had unprecedented student loan debt. They didn't have jobs, so they had to be creative and dig deep, and what they were forced to do was turn within. So you have that generation, 80% wanting to be entrepreneurs. You have, just take women of color, for example. 52% of women of color are planning to leave the workforce within the next 2 years.
By choice.
By choice. So you're having this mass exodus, as we were just taken to a deeper level, and we really saw we finally got a chance to breathe and see what our values were. And now, you know, companies are just seeing this wake-up call. They're open to conversations about, you know, can I give you more flexibility?
Right, we've seen a lot of these ads. So they're going to pay for college. They're going to incentivize you to come, because they recognize that it's not just enough to be able to say, well, here's the salary. What else do you bring to the table?